So I feel like I might just kind of like get started. I kind of had it like on the ground at first, but it looked a little weird. So I feel like this is better. The sun is hitting on the right angle. Pretty here, like sun-kissed, right? Look at that cheek. Anyway, I believe it's the 10th of November, so that means that the new moon in Scorpio is actually going to be happening on the 14th and the 15th, depending on where you are in the world, right? But the moon in Scorpio is actually in its fall, because the moon actually likes to be in Taurus. So during this season, we experience the moon being exalted when it's full during Scorpio season, because the moon is exalted in Taurus, and we just had that, right? Which was maybe a few days ago. Did we? The full moon, sorry. The full moon was on October 31st, so it was 9 days ago, right? So on Halloween, the moon was exalted, yes, and the moon is actually in a really good position in Taurus. Like I said, it is one of material reciprocity that comes from work. It comes from knowledge, concrete knowledge, but then also, kind of having an experience, and that experience leads to consequences throughout the process. So when we're given the opportunity with the moon being exalted in Taurus to manifest something that is going to be to the benefit of most, then that is a really good thing. And of course, maybe a week after the full moon, actually it was 3-4 days after the full moon, we had the election, and then a few days after that we had the outcome or the decision, right? So that's kind of like the idea or the feeling of the moon being exalted in Taurus. Some of you may have experienced some relief in some areas. It's a very the moon in Taurus is a very good placement for security, right? Comfort and stuff like that. So gaining security, gaining comfort, the moon being full there sort of emphasizes that we're on the path to feeling like we are in a place of growth, but it's growth that comes from compromise. You have to be willing to see where we have certain habits, or where there may have been mistakes before, and it's the opportunity to change or to fix a mistake or to make something better. It's progress with the moon in Taurus. That was the full moon on October 31st. Very philanthropic, right? Anyway, feminine energy too. So significant feminine energy. It's kind of like the Gaia, right? But the moon in Scorpio is actually in its fall. Scorpio's a water sign, so the moon sort of, is familiar with the energy, but Scorpio is ruled by a planet of aggression. And it's also ruled by a planet of passive aggression. Mars is destruction, it's anger. Pluto is jealousy, resentment. Those are kind of like the shadow ideas of Scorpio. But the lighter aspect is transformation, power, but power that comes from being able to acknowledge your weaknesses, right? So that you can begin to work on those weaknesses, right? So we can Pluto is also talking about atoning for mistakes or atoning for past hurts. And atoning for past hurts could also be the person who is admitting the wrongdoing, or it could be the person who is forgiving the wrongdoing. Pluto leaves its mark, and so does Mars, but in different ways. Some would say the same, just because in Vedic astrology they don't even use Pluto, they use Mars for both, right? Aries and Scorpio. So the planets that rule this new moon are Pluto and Mars. And that's, Scorpio is definitely going to feel it. Taurus will feel it as well. And so will maybe Aries. And perhaps Capricorn to a degree, because we have a lot of planets over there in Capricorn along with Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio. So we've got all of those planets over there that are kind of like breaking things down, eroding, erosion, decay, that type of thing. And that's Scorpio too. Breaking down, decay, transformation. It's healing as well, cleansing. And using your power for good, clairvoyant energy, that type of thing. So, being that it's a new moon in Scorpio, secrets will probably be revealed or uncovered. Secrets of power, maybe leadership, that type of thing. For some people, it's a new beginning, a reaffirming power, right? It's a clearing so that there can be a beginning. It's almost like being in between, very transient, with the moon being new. But with it being in its fall, it's almost like no one knows what is going to be happening. It could be shocking things that come about, and it might be things that we just didn't know were connected to other things we already did know, that type of thing. And on an individual level, it's the acceptance of having to start fresh, having to start new. It's almost like beginning a new cycle. Especially after a major, landmark, monumental, pivotal cycle of transformation that a lot of people have been experiencing. And Scorpio also talks about fighting, so what are you fighting? Are you fighting something? Are you fighting, whatever it is that you need to let go or submit to? You need to let go of or submit to. Maybe you need to make peace with something. That's also, the Scorpio moon energy. One of my best friends has a Scorpio moon. I dated someone with a Scorpio moon. My stepfather is a Scorpio. I myself have the ruler of Scorpio in my first house, and a little bit of Scorpio in my first house too. So I'm very familiar with 8th house Scorpio energy vibes. My longest relationship was 10 years, and it was with someone who had their sun in their 8th house. So that's also very Scorpio energy right there too. Sometimes it has to do with toxic, painful memories of the past. Letting go of those things, and not forgetting them, but forgiving whatever happened, right? Because we have to be able to let go of things, put some things down, and stop letting things take over our lives, right? Or just have power over us. We need to hopefully allow things to empower us, especially the things that you can't control, because the things that you can't control are probably things that you aren't actually meant to have, or you're not meant to be attached to or involved with, people, place, or thing. And Scorpio also has to do with like reduction. It's almost like when you're cooking a sauce and you're reducing it down to kind of really enhance the purity of it or the essence of something, right? And Pluto is a very dense planet, so it is very much like a reduction of things. So maybe we are starting over after a scenario, a situation, or an event reduced itself. It was no longer able to survive on, the gassy fumes that it was running on, right? People, place, or thing. A job, it could be an idea, it could be something that you just are obsessed with, possessing perhaps. Or it could have been something that you lost, that you were codependent on. Maybe you possessed it. Possessing something and being possessive is kind of a codependency. Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, is exalted in Capricorn, right? So, what is it that to let go of, or we need to make peace with, right? Maybe you've already let go of that thing. Maybe you were forced to let go of something, because that's what Pluto does. It sort of like forces you to have an experience that changes you. It's kind of karmic. It's very regenerative, because things can get too toxic. They can get too convoluted. They can be too difficult, and they can be consuming, of your energy. And Scorpio does talk about letting go of things or choosing, because it really is a choice. Because if you look at the Judgment card in Tarot, it is number 20, and that reduces to a 2. So it talks about making a choice to let go of something that may have been reducing you, right? Reducing your character, or maybe limiting you in some kind of way. And you didn't realize it before because you were made conscious of it after the fact, but you kind of had to go through it. You had to experience like the dark night of the soul, and I feel like that's very cliche. I have to figure out a new way to say that, but it's like the shadow. Pluto is definitely the shadow. It's what's lurking, what we think, where we think is out of bounds actually is in bounds, right? It's like you thought that this wasn't a part of the rules of the game, but they actually are, Yeah, and it talks about how life is unfair sometimes, right? But we have to choose to balance out life's, displeasures, or anything that we feel like we don't deserve. Because everybody feels like they didn't deserve something. Some people also don't feel like they don't deserve something that they actually have. And that's guilt. And that also is kind of related to Pluto, more so than Mars. And in esoteric astrology, Pluto rules Pisces. And it makes sense because Pisces would feel guilty, right? Or even left out in a sense, right? But it's like the jealousy and the resentment that comes from being left out that leads to desire to possess, or the desire to be, or the desire to belong, that type of thing, you know. And Uranus is actually exalted in Scorpio, and Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius doesn't really care about belonging. So when Uranus is in Scorpio, it's exalted there, right? So it doesn't necessarily care about anything that other people have, what they're doing, you know, being a part of the status quo or anything like that, you know, because that's kind of like where the Scorpio energy of jealousy and resentment comes from, because it's like, I don't have or I am not, right? We're focusing on lack. It's coming from a place of lack, right? Of being like, it's like you being aware of your limitations is actually limiting you, because you need to be aware, and you need to be conscious of what is possible, not what is impossible. Because if we just focus on what is impossible, then nothing would ever happen. You would never do anything. You would never be inspired, you know, to create. Where's the motivation, right? Also, it like almost takes like it's kind of like having a negative emotional experience versus having a positive emotional experience. So when you're choosing like jealousy and resentment or fear, that's a negative emotional experience. So nothing positive is actually coming out of it, because it's like low vibrational. It's kind of like, I get a lot of clients that are single and they want to be with a specific person that they might be seeing in their life. And they might be very intensely emotional talking about the person, or talking, you know, just because they're overcome with, you know, this emotion that is triggered by the idea that they will not be able to possess this person, who will then validate some part of themselves if they're not willing to face themselves. It's like that type of thing, but we can't really like say all of that right then and there, but that's really what it is. It's like they really want someone, and it's really just because they're putting more value in the other person than they are putting in themselves. So because they're putting value in the other person, they want that person that they value to value them, and then they will accept themselves, right? Because before they just felt like they were lacking something, or they didn't have something that other people had, or they weren't living like the status quo, whatever it is. It could be anything. It could be anything, really. And it can be anyone. You could literally be married to a person that's like jealous of you and that resents you, because they would have their own reasons. You know, it's hidden. It's not something that you would know, because why would they tell you that? You know, why would they even say it to you? They keep it to themselves, right? Because it almost gives them a sense of power, being able to feed these negative thoughts in their own headspace where they're controlling everything. It's kind of crazy and sick, but Taurus, that energy is similar to it. I'm not talking about people that are Taurians. I'm talking about the idea, or the essence of Taurus, because everybody has a light and a shadow, and you know. But that's very fixed. It's like all of the fixed signs deal with that. Scorpio, right? What's the opposite of Scorpio? Taurus. That's kind of like racism and stuff like that. Very mean girls, you can't sit with us. This is what makes us different from you. It's like different religions, right? What's the idea of religion? The idea of religion is love, right? The belief in love and creation, right? That's great. That's beautiful. But then with all of that comes like power and intimidation. Oh my God, it's like too vast and too broad to talk about in just this little snippet of a video, but it is that. It's all of those things, right? It is why you can't marry someone that might come from a lesser known family, or a family that was poor, or something like that. That's very like the Hierophant, like Taurus type of energy, that type of thing. Belief systems, right? So we're talking about that too, because we could develop certain beliefs that are, you know, not true to who we really are, and it's just based on some things that we pick up from like society and friends and the people we know and the intimate relationships that we share with other people who bring things into the into the relationship. So it's being mindful of that and understanding that you don't control what other people think or feel, and you can't make their feelings about you, and you can't make your feelings about them. I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm learning. It's like being emphasized right now. Scorpio season, or Scorpio is also, Taurus is earned income, and Scorpio is shared resources. And shared resources are anything like Social Security, taxes, like that type of thing. Shared bank accounts. So, like I said, secrets, bank accounts. Usually no one knows how much money you have in your bank account because you keep that to yourself, right? Scorpio, shared resources, right? And also your own personal individual resources that you keep to yourself. Because the very thing that we use to procreate as humans is our genitalia. And that's Scorpio as well. We keep that hidden, and that is a secret for people as well, right? So it's like anything that I just mentioned, and a little bit more too. But yeah, there could be some financial scandals happening, maybe, because that is in the realm of Scorpio and money and shared resources, taxes, that type of thing. That came up recently, and we have all of those planets in the sign that rules economy and executive leadership, and yeah, so we could be hearing about some of that stuff too. But Scorpio is also talking about how you gain power, right, over your resources. So maybe some of you are starting to, gain power over the resources that you have, that type of thing, rethinking it. Maybe you are in new territory, okay? But a planet being in its fall or being debilitated is not a bad thing. I mean, it sounds bad, but it really is an area or a subject or a matter or whatever it is in your life that you just have to work a little bit harder on. And for me, I have planets that are actually debilitated, but they're actually in the sign that they belong in. So it could be like, you could have your sun be in Leo, which is, where it lives, where it wants to be. But then it could be in the 11th house, which is like Aquarius. So it's accidentally debilitated, but it's in its own rulership. So in that sense, you could actually get some really unexpected surprises that work out for you in that area, I have a lot of planets that are kind of like that. I find it to be very interesting. Anyway, I hope that was enough information for this Scorpio season and this new moon that we're about to have. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.